This seems to be an up and running podcast.
Operation?
Seems to be.
So it's the same old, same old?
As I look around, same old.
Same old, same old?
Same old. Welcome to the Same Old Podcast. Lots going on this week. Epstein, Barack Obama, all the cover-ups, all the corruption. What is going on? Tulsi Gabbard's in the mix. What the heck's going on? Other than the same old.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. It has to be something to change in order some people are going to, really start taking their demand for answers a little further than just being tired and shrugging shoulders about the same old, same old. There has to be some justice. There has to be something happen. I don't know which one you want to talk about, but
I want to talk about something that's not the same, which is your facial hair. Check this out. You guys haven't seen this new, maybe improved look. What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments.
I'm going to fire school next week. With cheating death and saving lives.
Love it. We need more first responders.
Yeah, first responder that would be last on the scene.
I'll follow you into any fire any day, brother.
Yeah. Well, let's go into that fire.
Yeah, let's get into it.
The sequence of events I've seen, we've spent some time together, and you've been very frustrated because you don't have any hope left. You haven't had any hope for a long time. And you're like most everybody who doesn't have any hope. And so what has to happen for you to be restored of hope in this nation?
Any sign, and that's a low bar. I can define what any sign to me might mean, but any sign of true justice and accountability for the American citizens, the voters, the taxpayers, any sign of justice in these areas, any legitimate sign of transparency where there isn't the stink of a cover-up, where it's just more of the deep state conversation of this person's covering for this person and all of this nonsense that's going on. This is why conspiracy theories run wild, is because every word out of any administration's mouth seems to reek of no accountability, no justice. It just stinks of cover-up after cover-up, who's protecting who's in bed with who, and we are sick and tired of it. And that's why when Trump was running for his now second term, during many of his podcast interviews, he was talking about opening the floodgates. Hey, I'm going to release the JFK files. I am going to release the Epstein files, etc. And here we are. And now that all seems to have been flipped, right? Nope. Epstein, there's nothing to see here. Why are you guys paying attention to that? That's nonsense. Kash Patel was talking about that we need to get to the bottom of this. Bongino was talking about we need to get to the bottom of this. That's all Epstein stuff. And obviously any Trump supporters were hearing about all this Russia hoax as well. So just every single thing that comes up seems to be a dead end. And now we're all being gaslit like crazy, as if we're idiots for paying attention to these things and just, hey, mind your business, forget about it, nothing to see there. And sorry, I am not some crazy, wild, I don't wake up in the morning thinking about conspiracy theories. That is not how I live my life. I have better things to do. However, that's fair.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I definitely enjoy talking about it, but I've felt disenfranchised long enough with the government that I don't believe a word out of anybody's mouth. And this is all just evidence to support my case, in my opinion. So what would have to happen? Maybe your initial question was, what would have to happen for me to have a glimmer of hope? Hey, man, accountability. And what does that look like? What does justice and accountability look like? According to me, people need to be hanging in the public square.
True punishment for true crime.
Amen. Maximum punishment according to the law.
When you go back and think about why they did all this and what they're actually trying to hide, to plan such a thing, and what Seth Rich did. Why did they kill Seth Rich? What was that angle? Was it because of the Assange thing, that he released? He was part of that. Was he the inside story? Was he blowing the whistle on all of the Podesta emails and all that stuff that had to do with Hillary and all of that? But what would the arrogance, obviously, so they haven't released the Epstein files or everything, still kind of caught up. They're waiting on a judge who now has demands about what he's doing to release those files, what have you. Okay, an Obama-appointed judge. But they've had all of this information for years. So if the president was on it, if our current president was on it, there's no way, after filing 97 charges against him, literally, they would not have used it against him. That's my opinion. There's just absolutely no way they wouldn't try to hang that on him. For all the effort they've tried to hang all of this stuff, everything on him. If there was something on that file that implicated President Trump, I think they would have used that by now.
I agree.
It would have taken precedence over all of this stuff. It would not have taken all of this fabrication of Crossfire Hurricane and the dossier and Christopher Steele and all of this fabrication and all of this risk. There's a story already there. You could have taken him out with the Epstein files. So why doesn't he release them? That's a separate issue. Now, this issue is she's released a trove of
We're talking Tulsi now. Okay.
What does they call her? DNI? Department of National Intelligence, right? DNI. So,
Director.
Tulsi, director. So she's released all, evident. I haven't read the thousands of pages, but, it's, if you followed it way back then, it was all set up. This was back when Rush was still alive, and he was talking about all of this. But to me is, if you're going to go to this extent to commit this type of treason, number one is they're super careless. They're not that smart. If these documents still exist, and there's super classified documents and whatever, and however, and whatever was in Mar-a-Lago and whatever, happened with all that, you're so arrogant. You are so supreme that you think you can pull something like this off and not get caught. In the ultimate crime against this country, if all of this is true, if all of this is true, and you directed all of this, and you came up with all this from the dossier, from funded by Hillary and the DNC and the Podesta emails and all that led to the investigation of Crossfire Hurricane and everything that came out of that, and the direction of trying to implicate and using all of our national security assets to make all this up. The absolute arrogance of that is astounding to me. So,
and do they think so? They did, like, to your point, they did a piss poor job of attempting to even covering it up. Just the documents are still there, right? This alleged instruction from Obama: hey, go make this crap up and discredit the legitimacy of Trump's victory in that election. Or do they not care? Because why cover it up when no one is ever held accountable?
If I robbed, try to assassinate him and take him out 2 weeks before he becomes the nominee.
Yeah, right. Hey, we go to our contingency plan B and C and D. But again, when's the last time anyone has ever really been held accountable? And how many treasonous acts have there been that have we've probably got all the documents on all those acts, and nobody's held accountable. So what do you care? I'll walk into a bank and no mask, no nothing. If I know I'm going to get away with it scot-free, what do I care if XYZ finds out? I don't. I know I'm too well protected. The swamp runs too deep. No accountability at all.
So you actually think that is part of the thought process, is I'm not, even if I get caught, you can't do anything to me.
That's part of my thought process, and here's why I say that. This is part of the fallacy of thinking that your vote matters, that you will install a new person, and that new person can and will, I should reverse that, will and can actually do something about anything. And what I mean by that is, so in this case, right, we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in there. We're thinking, hey, great, those are the guys, put them in there. They're going to get to the bottom of all this. And in that famous interview, they come out and they're like, he killed himself. Yeah, what he said, he killed himself. And everyone can read right through that nonsense. And so it's a fallacy thinking that putting a new character in place is going to fix it. What needs to change is the system itself, meaning someone has to break the mold. And by someone, what I really mean is the American people, probably with weapons, need to break the mold to restructure the system so that there is fear amongst the elected officials and the bureaucrats, that they know if they screw around like this, they will not be around any longer. At a minimum, they won't hold their position of power. And so it's been going on so long with zero accountability. What is there to fear? The system is broken, that they just have all these layers and layers of protection.
Well, now you know why they want to make everybody slaves to the system.
Sure.
Because they won't stand up to the system they're a slave to, whether it be debt, whether it be COVID mandates or whatever else to create. Look at all the stuff. Look at all the stuff since 2016. Now you can go back further. You can go back to CIA's. You can go back all the way to Theodore Roosevelt if you want. However far you choose to go back. But just look at since 2015. I mean, this Crossfire Hurricane, Julian Assange, Seth Rich, COVID, the assassination attempts. I mean, it's one thing after another to try to cover the tracks. Epstein.
Yep.
Whether Maxwell will actually make it to the stand, and everybody's going to discredit her because she's trying to cut a deal, and whatever. But she's got some receipts. She knows,
But you can't.
But why is she still alive? What about?
Right.
So
right.
One of Epstein's attorneys just turned up dead 2 days ago in Miami.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
So and how, but again. I get it. I get why some people say, it's so crazy. The next steps, if something doesn't happen with these two things, it's not just losing 50 seats in the House or this crazy communist guy who's running for mayor in D.C. or in New York. These are the results of people not getting answers and being slave to an economic system.
Yep.
And the way out of this is justice and prosperity, and that's it.
Yeah.
Me personally, in the last few years, we're not doing no restaurateur that I know of is thriving like they were, or any local business or whatever, but the people that work with me and think that everybody's a slave to a system. Nobody's going to stand up. They've got bills to pay. They've got rent to pay. They've got credit card to pay. And I heard Charlie Kirk talking about something that now you can finance concert tickets. You can finance your groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. Credit card debt's higher than it's ever been in the history.
This isn't even credit card debt. This is called something else. Buy now, pay later.
It's the what's that?
BNPL, buy now, pay later. It's a Swiss company. There's 2 or 3 companies that are doing it. So you can finance your grocery bill.
Right.
So you become more of a slave.
Yep.
But anyway, that's the point. That's why people aren't going to. The people that are going to, anyway, God forbid something like that happens, and you're not, nobody here is promoting that. Nobody here is promoting that. I don't, but just the whole thing of what they're trying to hide, to try and pull this off, to try to usurp the entire country, the arrogance that you are so scared of this man. coming into office. And what if who knows, if they'd let him win the second one, none of this stuff would be coming out. He would still be a partial victim of the deep state. But because he did not get elected, what I call divine intervention, in my opinion, because he did not get elected, who knows how much if they should have just left it alone, let the economy boom, let this, and just left it alone, it would have been far less damaging than what they've done now to themselves.
Yeah, I wonder, that would be an episode in itself, trying to do that cost-benefit analysis of the trade-offs that happened, the fact that they got him out of there for Biden's administration, all the tens of millions of illegals that came in the country and all the damage that's going to do forever, that's unrecoverable, and so on and so forth. But yeah, they probably did far more damage to themselves than they would have had they just left him in and kept firing shots at his alleged illegitimacy of being in office.
Yeah, because, I mean, he wouldn't know as much as he knows now, or how they're going to go after him. But, man, I've got to believe, I think that the guy he is and has been speaking to being all the way back to the 80s, when you see all these old interviews with him, with the USFL and Oprah interviews and all this stuff about how fed up he was about a businessman being taken advantage of and this country being taken advantage of, and then trying to fix it and being patriotic and actually doing something about it, and then just getting maliciously worn out and just absolutely life threatening.
Yeah.
I just got the feeling somebody's fixing to pay. Somebody's going to be in trouble here.
So,
and they sure aren't saying much. They're saying a little bit.
Yeah.
But they sure aren't saying much.
Yeah. It seems a little quiet in the areas that matter right now. It seems quieter than you would expect for something this big. But Obama's office this got big enough in the media, and in general population circles that even Obama's office, responded to all the accusations of treason. And how could they not at a certain point, when the sitting president accuses you of treason and says, we've got the receipts, and changes his tune. So back in, 2016.
Didn't Mr. Trump say something in the Oval Office yesterday?
Yeah. So I'm going to back up just a hair, but I'm leading perfectly into that.
Real quick, who was with him? The Japanese?
Philippines.
The
leader of the Philippines. Yeah. So that interview now is extremely viral, not because of the deals he struck with Philippines, which were basically, we pay no tariffs to anything for the Philippines, and they pay, I want to say it was 19%.
Yeah, it's less than 20%.
Yeah, I want to say it was 19%, but anyway, so it's
which is a great deal.
Little victories there, but no one's paying attention because of the overwhelming content that came regarding Obama and Epstein. Those are the sound bites being regurgitated. So I'm going to back up just a hair before that. So back in 2016, and this was a mistake in my opinion. This could have been handled back then had he dug in. And I think this was a mistake by Trump personally. So one of the things that Trump was saying back in 2016, or leading up to the 2016 election, I should say, was that when he gets in office, he was not going to prosecute Hillary Clinton for all the crimes that she had done and that we have receipts on, right? All the files that she had, all the flash drives that she was taking home, the cover up that she tried to do regarding that, and so on. And Trump was saying, look, that's not a good look, prosecuting an ex-president's wife. That's not a good look. I'm going to let that slide for the sake of healing the country. Now, my opinion is that was a mistake. That would have begun healing the country because it would have shown, look, Trump is in office. This is a new breed coming in. This isn't the same old deep state. We're covering each other in perpetuity. There will never be accountability. That would have shown people like me with my mentality that, hey, look, this is a change of pace. This is a new season of politics. We're going to hold people accountable. This isn't just do whatever you want and get away with it forever, like it's always been for my entire life. And that would have started a healing process for people like me. So I think that was a mistake by Trump to have that mentality. He should have recognized that people want accountability and transparency. We're sick of all the lies and the cover-ups. So fast forward to today. the meeting he had with the leader of the Philippines, he was asked, hey, what's going on? It was actually a question about Epstein, and he answered the question, but then he immediately segued into Obama, and he was like, hey, what you should really be talking about is Obama and the Russia hoax and all of that. He's like, Tulsi released the receipts. We've got the receipts. We're going to go after him. And he mentioned in that interview, he said, back when I was doing this against Hillary, I said, I'm not going to go after her because that's a bad look. But now I'm going to go after him. And you and I talked about this the other day before this interview. And I said he'd said that. I said that he had proclaimed his thoughts about it being a bad look going after Hillary. And he might change his tune. And now he has said it in the office. He said that he's going to change course on that. And he plans on going after Obama. I have no hope, unfortunately, or faith that anything will actually come to this. I think this will all end up being political theater like the rest of it. But at least he reversed course on that mentality. At least that's what he said. We'll see what his actions do. And Tulsi, I think, on a sidebar here, Tulsi has a bone to pick about this because when she was going against Hillary, the
way they treated her,
being a former Democrat, right?
Served her country.
Still
serving her country.
And what does she get for that? You're a Russian agent. You're a Russian asset. You're a puppet of Putin kind of narrative. And so I think she has a bone to pick regarding anything pertaining to Russia. And so this would be a good look for her she has, a little extra incentive to hit the throttle on this. So we'll see. Props to Tulsi for calling this out and being immediately, at least so we are told, immediately willing to have the transparency to release documents and start pushing this forward. So we'll see. Actions speak louder than words. I don't care if you talk about releasing evidence unless you're going to push it through, because we just heard that with Epstein. Oh, we're going to release the documents, and that whole charade of those influencers coming out with the binders with no new information. What a joke. Just lies after lies.
My thought about the Hillary thing and going back to what he said is I think he underestimated what the deep state was really about. I think he when he went in, he still trusted, like Bill Barr. He still trusted many Mark Milley, whoever else was in these positions, these deep state positions. He did not truly understand. I think he was ignorant of the fact that, hey, I'll give you a pass on that. Hey, let's move forward. I'm not going to prosecute the ex-president's wife, and I'll give you a pass on that. Even though he had that great line in the debate that says, thank God President Trump's not in charge of the DOJ. Oh yeah, you'd be in prison. But.
And everyone loved that, which shows how that would have been healing for a huge number of people.
All that. But I think he was completely underestimated. He underestimated what the deep state really was and what it really truly is, and the monstrosity that it has become. And even talking about it, I think nobody really understands how deep it is on the outside because of what the intelligence agencies have been weaponized against their own people. Nobody, no elected official, that it's just been weaponized. I think he was ignorant at that point when he said that, of what was coming, what we're capable of, what they were going to do. But again, if he was, why in the world? Just think of what they're trying to hide, to try this, and to try and usurp the entire system, the arrogance and the just absolute gall. It is crazy to fathom that to me, but I think he didn't have any idea of what he was up against. I mean, just think Bill Barr, and who Bill Barr is, and who his father was, and what he had to do with the intelligence agencies, and that's the definition of the deep state. He was the attorney general, and he was out to get the top cop, and he corrupt. And man, Trump didn't know that. He served under President Bush. He thought he was a good guy, you know, da 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 da. Meanwhile, you can trash the Bushes all you want about what they did, you know, and the CIA and all that. And it's all been turned against. And to your point is, finally, if anyone knows who, what the CIA has done over the past 4 decades.
For starters.
For start. Just, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
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 I'd like Woodrow Wilson.
I'd like accountability while somebody's still alive. That's for sure.
Start at Woodrow Wilson. Okay?
Yeah.
You know? And he's the one that really designed the deep state. Okay? So, you can start. But anyway, the CIA in the 50s and 60s and, you know, and MK Ultra and all these terrible programs, mind control and coups and altered elections and all this, and, you know, coming up to this point is, you know, people who understand that really wanted to see Hillary pay the price at that time, and they understand that's what made them so mad. You know, is it's all been corrupt. It's all been, regardless of some good, some bad, but the intelligence agencies now have been massively weaponizing it. And what do you do? It's like I was listening to Charlie say, you know, do you trash them and start over? Then, because half of them came from these Ivy League schools and they were groomed to be in these spots, and they have no idea what they're doing. The auto pen scandal, these people that were running the presidency, if that's, you know, the case, and, you know, they're 20 and 30 some ideologues that were come out of Harvard and Cornell and whatever else schools, and they're the ones, they're ideologues that are Marxists that, you know, want to just, they have no respect for, you know, any historical thing other than, it's crazy. It's crazy to see the extent of it. And I just, you know, sit up there and you got Tulsi and you got, you know, you got Cash and you got Dan and, you know, you got President Trump and Mike Flynn, and, you know, he's not in it, but Mike Flynn I really think he's one of the guys that knows where the bodies are, and that's why they went after him, you know, early in the administration too. But the way he's talking right now, the statements he's making is, look, you can't get past this one. These two right here, and they just released.
What two is he referring? What's who are you referring to? Epstein and
the Crossfire
Obama's
Hurricane. Whichever.
Oh, okay, yeah, gotcha.
Right. So
one and the same.
You can't get past these two. All right. If something doesn't happen here, there's going to be a serious problem.
And is he advocating for the American people to know what's going on? I didn't see what he said.
He's pushing President Trump.
Okay. He's pushing Trump to say.
You got to do something.
Okay.
You can't let this boil and simmer anymore. There's got to be something happen. Man, just think back about 2014. We overthrew Ukraine and installed Dum Dum in the jumpsuit. And would Russia have millions of people be dying and the country's torn apart if all of this hadn't gone down and everybody thinks that Russia is their enemy and Putin is the bad guy and all of these young people? It's just crazy, the implications of what they've done here. And do you believe it to be true? You hadn't read 1,000 documents.
No. But that's the funny thing is, you could take any, and they're doing these interviews, these man on the street interviews. You could take any kind of average working American that's even relatively up to date on the news and politics, and they've been watching what they've seen even on mainstream media over the last 12 years, let's say.
And they're and they have a part in this, by the way.
And they, let me finish this out. And the average person on the street that's just watched even biased media knows enough to know that the majority of what you hear coming out of any administration is bullcrap. That they are spewing lies and hate towards the other party, and it's this back and forth game that's being played, and it is not for the betterment of the United States of America and its citizens. And so therefore your question was, do I believe this without reading the documents? There's sure as shit all sorts of stuff going on. If this was happening back in 2016, right? Obama pushes this Russian collusion hoax, and I shouldn't call it a hoax. I'll say he was pushing the Russia collusion thing, and it's like, well, where are the documents? The Steele dossier was nonsense for anyone that kind of read it. It was like, well, okay, Russia was trying to dip their toe in the water in the election to just cause dissension amongst the American people, but they would do that on everyone. So would China. And I think we do that in every other country as well. That doesn't mean that they're changing the tally of the votes, right? And more or less, that was the conclusion of the initial investigation. If there even was an investigation, I don't even believe there was an investigation. I think somebody created a narrative and spewed it out to the world as propaganda, like agencies have done for decades, including our agencies, mainly our agencies. So I don't know what to believe, which is why I don't have any hope, and I question absolutely everything, which is also why, even if you install what you would consider your A team, let's use this administration as an example. Tulsi and Dan and Cash and Trump or whatever. Pick your favorite A-team characters out there. I would rather, you were just saying this about Kirk, that these Ivy League people are just coming up, these ideologues with auto pen, with the power of the auto pen just coming up and running an administration without any real oversight from anyone. I would rather throw darts at a dartboard with names of Americans on it, get rid of the top 10,000 people in office. Top 10,000. I'm making that number up, but it covers all of the senators, congressmen and women, everyone in office, all the top cops, everybody, all the top officials at all the 3-letter agencies. Get rid of all of them, install a bunch of random strangers that would have to then start over and get to know each other and figure it out. Hey, you two, go look at all the Epstein documents and start sifting through that. Let's talk about what you find. Hey, you two, go look at all the Obama Crossfire Hurricane documents, see what you find. Hey, you two, go, that kind of thing. And it would just be American people that don't have somebody in their, twisting their arm because they're in somebody's pocket. That would give us a fighting chance for about 5 minutes. But at least the corruption pool in the deep state would have to start over and it would have to be relearned. But hopefully we would make some tweaks to the system instead of just swapping out characters, because the incentives are all for corruption right now. More power, more money. You get into office, you come out a multi-millionaire on a $100,000 salary.
You remember who the DOJ? It was Jeff Sessions from Alabama. He came from the Senate, and he was the head of the DOJ at the time and he recused himself from the investigation.
Why do I not remember
Jeff
that?
Sessions was the Attorney General, and he came from the Senate, and he was a senator from Alabama, and he recused himself early in all of this. And everybody thought he was going to be the guy that got some justice for all this. But this is saying Trump fired Sessions in 2018 due to his inaction and recusal from the collusion probes. Right.
So he recused himself from digging into Crossfire Hurricane, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so Trump said, all right, well, if you're going to recuse yourself and not dig in, see you later.
Yeah.
Why didn't he dig in?
I don't, who knows?
Did he proclaim that?
A lot of people think he was a good guy for the, everybody was pumped up about it. So what did they threaten him with?
Who thought he was a good guy? Obama supporters or Trump supporters?
To start with, let's just think that Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson, they thought highly of him, and they, as people who are highly critical and have some knowledge about people's history, those two thought Sessions was a good pick and was going to do something about it, but then he recused himself. Now Sessions has gone back and said, that was a huge mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have done that.
But he didn't say why he did it?
No, not that I know of. There's probably some information as to why he said that, but I don't know it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it was Rosenstein that was in charge, and Rod Rosenstein, and you know how corrupt he was. So none of that investigation. But who'd they pull? What was his name? Mueller.
Yeah.
Was the special counsel, and he couldn't even barely make a sentence at the hearing. Remember how dumbfounded he was through the whole thing.
So why do you? Now that we know what we know, it's easy to say in hindsight, right? That hey, this went straight, direct line, Obama's name on the document saying, hey,
on the directives,
create this propaganda and spew it to delegitimize Trump, right? Now that we allegedly know that as per Tulsi. So that's maybe easy to then theorize why Sessions would have recused himself. He saw that and he went, I ain't touching that. That's too hot for me. And so I'm going to recuse myself from this. I don't want to be the guy to take out Barack Obama, this supposedly superhero character, for all of his, supporters. That's easy to speculate.
Yeah.
On that. So that's a shame, right? Lacking the courage to be transparent and reveal the truth.
Was he threatened? Yeah, it's a huge shame. Is anybody going to stand up to that? You were in a spot right there where you could, but Trump was in a spot too where he could have prosecuted, whatever. It's all, leads us to the point now of, for you, it's justice. For me, I would love to see some justice, absolutely 100%. And in my mind, this is where we were talking about this morning in the gym, is all knees will bow. There will be justice, in my opinion, whether it happens here or not. But the audacity, the arrogance of these people, the auto pen, not just look what's come out of this. They put a guy in the office who he had a third term. That was Obama. Obviously, and he didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
He wasn't running the show. He had no idea.
He had no idea where he was.
So they overthrew and installed, and then the actions from them opened the floodgates, which has created huge problems in every facet of the imagination.
Yep.
From the rise of Islam to the killings of innocent, to sex trafficking, to all the things, all that stuff. And just the audacity to do all this and not think that you will pay the price or you will get caught. One or the other or both.
Yeah.
Okay? I just am in awe of you think you are God. You are, just think of you, and just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And if it goes any further, and there's just, you can just imagine that the dissent, the rioting, if they take down Obama and just the people, what's going to happen to if he gets actually indicted and put in handcuffs, what does the country do then? I mean, good grief.
But they did that to Trump. They cuffed Trump. We've got Trump's famous mugshot. Nothing happened.
But
nothing happened. Nobody did anything.
Yeah, but you didn't rise up in the streets.
That's my point. That's my point.
What I'm saying is you aren't Antifa, okay? You aren't that.
You're saying it's a one-sided uprising.
Yes, right.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, and it always has been.
Great.
Because
then when they rise up, then there will have to be someone to combat them when it gets too far.
Right. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see any of this anymore. I understand justice must be served, and I agree with you, but golly, the alternatives for this are just nothing, everything and nothing. But the truth has to be told.
But it won't be.
It has to be told. It will be.
Who will tell it?
It may not be earthly, but it will be told.
Okay, earthly, will it be told?
I think it's being told. The evidence is there. The truth is, whether there's justice to it or not.
So let's say, I'm going to move this along here. Let's say Obama's guilty, that he devised this plan. And he put forward this directive to put out the propaganda that Trump was involved, or at least the beneficiary of, Russian election interference and collusion to become the sitting president. And Obama made all of this up to discredit him, which absolutely spread like a wildfire. It's one of the few things we heard about for his entire presidency, right? Is that he was illegitimate. It started before his presidency. It started during the period he was a lame duck. Right, but then it escalated according to the timeline anyway,
Right,
once he
my
was
point to your
sitting,
point that
but
you're
it did
making
start.
is it started before he took off.
Yes. So let's assume all of this proves to be true, and Tulsi or whoever has receipts, and there are enough whistleblowers that come forward, which apparently is happening. A bunch of whistleblowers are coming forward. Let's assume all this is true. Would you consider that to be treason?
Oh, yeah. I see your definition. Yeah, it's treason.
Okay, that's where I'm leading. Let's define treason. This is just a quick little Google search. So according to the Oxford language, treason, the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. So my interpretation of that, particularly overthrow the government, our government was designed as a constitutional republic, right? Which refers to the people get to vote and install and elect their leader. And when you interfere with that system and you try to delegitimize that system, that is trying to overthrow the structure and the foundation of our government. And that is absolutely treason. Now, there are small ways of doing that. And then there's the alleged Barack Obama way of doing that, with absolutely across the board, everyone assumes that Donald Trump is the illegitimate president due to the propaganda that you created on your own. And that's an absolute and ultimate betrayal of your country. You undermined every single American citizen, whether they voted or not, but especially the voters that wanted a certain president in there, and you undermined that entire process by spewing that kind of narrative and propaganda. So to me, that's treason. For sure.
I don't think anybody is defined by that. There's the definition right there.
So, what are the penalties for treason in the United States? We're looking at the AI overview here on a Google search. In the United States, the penalties for treason as defined in 18 U.S. Code 2381 can be severe, including death or imprisonment for at least 5 years, along with a fine of at least $10,000. He's going to need to buy now, pay later on that $10,000 penalty. Additionally, a person convicted of treason is barred from holding any office under the United States.
When's the last time somebody was convicted of treason?
Anyone or in a sitting official? Let's see. So we're Googling last time anyone was convicted of treason in the United States. And this says the last conviction was upheld by the Supreme Court was in 1952. I mean, is that accurate? We're sitting here in 2025 and this is saying, assuming this is true. Wait a minute.
A U.S. citizen was
Indicted for treason but not convicted. Okay, historical context. Treason is a rare crime in the U.S. with few convictions throughout history. Well, there you go. That's where we are. Same old, right there. The last conviction for treason in the U.S.
But nobody's
was
done
1952.
it,
1952.
Everybody has been perfect.
A U.S. citizen was convicted for brutalizing U.S. prisoners in a Japanese war materials plant during World War II. That's the last time out of all the treasonous activity and behavior that goes on every single day. That's in our elected officials, amongst our elected officials. That's mind-blowing. And at the same time, no surprise at all. So this is funny. This AI overview is saying historical context. Treason is a rare crime in the U.S. with few convictions throughout history. Since 1956, only one person has been formally charged with treason.
Okay, so it has to be.
And you're telling me there are odds that this might play out, that I should have hope for this when that's our history.
Did I say you should have hope?
Yes.
In the fact that, no, I didn't.
You are disappointed that I don't have hope, which suggests you wish I did have hope.
And you put words in my mouth.
That's fair. That's fair.
Put words in my mouth. What I'm saying in the hope standpoint is I'm hoping that President Trump has a plan. in all of this. I don't think anything other than this is haphazard, because he knew what happened to him before, and he has thought this out. And there are stages. Oh, by the way, the chairman of the Fed resigned. Did you see that?
No.
Jerome Powell.
He did? I know that was like lingering.
So he's also been presented. DOJ is after him for it's something to do with the new building that they're building or what have you. But he resigned on his own. You know, President Trump would not fire him, although all the And I'm a believer that he's part of the holdup in the economy, that he could free up these interest rates and we could see something happen. But President Trump would not fire him. So that was a month ago he made that statement.
Yep.
All right. But the DOJ just, they filed charges against him for something. I don't know what for, but he resigned as of a couple days ago. So there's just another investigation that he knew about. He's known about this. Anyway, he retired, or he resigned. All right. So he knew about that a while back, and he didn't do anything about it. He let that play out and let that happen. At the same time, all this has been strolling along. Somebody actually just so happens to pick up a video of our current Attorney General talking about 10,000 videos on Epstein, and it gets thrown out on James O'Keefe's deal. And next thing you know, she's saying something that there's thousands upon thousands of videos of the Epstein thing, and then next thing you know, they turn right back around and say there's nothing.
Yeah.
None of this can be possible without some sort of plan. And then, after all of this is happening, Tulsi does this. Trump knew Tulsi was going to do this. And in the aftermath, just a couple of days later, all the MLK stuff is released. All of that stuff is released on the heels of the huge story of Obama. The MLK thing is a disaster. The protection of what's going on in the disaster. If you follow anything that Chad Jackson's saying, and all of the hoax that he was, look at all of the faith that all of that. That's a whole different tangent.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But look though, another huge cover up and crime.
Yeah.
Of what every street in this country has a MLK. Every one.
Yep.
And everybody wants to believe, and he didn't write that speech. A communist wrote that speech. Stanley Levinson wrote that speech. He was a communist ideologue from the Ivy League schools. And that's the predominant position. All this has led up to dissent, division, all of this division and all this goes all the way back to Marx, just like I said in the first episode. So,
and that shows the pattern of behavior.
But the sequence of it, I don't think this is haphazard. And how are things happening in conjunction? President Trump knew that Jerome Powell was going to be indicted or charged or whatever before he resigned. Okay, he resigned on his own. Trump didn't fire him; he resigned on his own. All right. Meanwhile, all that stewing, Epstein. Hey, we got all this. Oh no, we don't. He killed himself. Bam! Crossfire hurricane. I mean, just doom, 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 doom. Are they smart enough? Are they smart enough to be doing this in sequence for a reason?
No.
You don't think President Trump is clever enough to be doing this for a reason? It just gets it. You don't think Dan and Cash, have any sequence of events? You think they're as dumb as the Crossfire Hurricane people, and they're just.
Yeah. Because what's it going to be tomorrow? So if you just zoom out and look at it, I mean, you could try to draw those conclusions, and I see where your line of thinking is like, oh man, the Epstein story is really heated up. Pam Bondi got caught saying what she said in that little cafe or restaurant or wherever she was. Oh, there's thousands of videos, and then she had tried to cover that up, and then of course a week later, Dan and Cash are on that interview, and they're like, yeah, he killed himself, and they try to squash it, and then Trump, what a jerk Trump is for saying this. Whether you love him or hate him, he absolutely was talking about releasing the Epstein files. That's something that was commonly mentioned in his time leading up to that. It's a question everyone asked all the time. And then he has the gall to say
people remark.
These weaklings took it took this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. I don't want their support anymore. Pound sand. If you tell me leading up to your election that you're going to X, Y, and Z, and then when X, Y, and Z come up timeline wise, then you tell me that I'm a weakling and I took it hook, line, and sinker and you don't want my support anymore, that sort of thing. Like, sorry, you're on your own, buddy. You know, like, don't pull a freaking 180 on me like that. And I would say that about any policy too. If you tell me you're going to cut taxes and then you raise taxes, pound sand, or insert any 180. If I took you at face value leading up to something, and then you got my support, and this goes for anyone, and then you reverse course on me, and then furthermore, you call me a name and you undermine any support that might have been there, like, that's a loser move, in my opinion. That's a loser move.
I think that was taken out of context. I think
did you see it?
Yeah, I saw the stupid people comment. I think that's taken out of context.
How is that? Oh, man, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that's out of context. He was talking right to people that want to hear about Epstein.
Okay, so I feel like at this point, the Epstein thing is now, it has to be a play. There's no way you fumble over something so desperately bad. He's too smart for that. He's too clever. If he really truly is what I think, hopefully, that he's going to happen, that this particular instance is, there's no way you do this and fumble, and then these guys threaten to resign, and he takes a couple of days off, and you know, Bongino, and I'm leaving, and it's just crazy, and then all of this is happening, and then big giant, you know, mess about all this, then bam, across our hurricane surfaces, which to me, you know, crimes against children and sex trafficking and treason. I mean, you know, the two biggest fish in the sea. Okay, and now they're all swimming behind the boat. All of the Democrats, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, want the Epstein files released. They're calling for them when they weren't saying anything, from Schumer to AOC. Okay, now everybody's calling for it. But you got child sex trafficking and pedophilia, and you got treason on the hook. My point is, these two things, this just didn't come out of thin air like this. It just didn't. I don't believe it. There's no way that this is not some sort of sequential event. And in order to get everyone else confused about what's next, from Jerome Powell, all this stuff, okay, I think, here's one thing I do think is going to happen.
Bring it.
I think that you're going to see some interest rates fall, and you're going to see a surge in the economy, okay? If it's going to calm some people down when they're prosperous, okay? It could be a deep fake. If that's one of those things, I think you're going to see some economic stimulus happening from the Fed, all right? Which, by the way, he wants to abolish. If he says all that, you're going to abolish state tax. Anyway, so that's another thing. But anyway, what I'm saying is that's part of the puzzle too. It's all part of the puzzle. What if that part of the puzzle, to your point about losing hope, is, all right, well, we're just going to flood you with some economic prosperity. Everybody starts doing real well again. You're going to forget about all these things.
No way. That's what you think?
No.
What's the point of releasing this stuff at all?
I didn't say that. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a change in the Fed's policies that are going to allow the economy to turn a little bit. Okay, whether that has anything to do with these two things or not, whatever, I don't know. But all these things are in sequence, or all these things are happening, and I don't think that this is just happenstance. And I don't think that a prosperous economy is going to allow us to forget anything. And I don't think that's a tool for their cover up. But it's certainly something to think about if you're going to be that conspiratorial. Is, you know, next thing you know, everybody's fat and happy again, and everything's cruising along, and people tend to forget about these things, and prosecutions and prosperity and blah, blah, blah. So what if that's the truth? I'm asking, the king of conspiracy over here, the king of no hope. That's your king no hope.
King of no hope I'll take, not king of conspiracy. I'm not even on the list.
But listen, no. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying, what I'm trying to say is all these things happen in sequence. The idiocy of which the Epstein thing was handled, I don't think anybody can be that stupid. For her to go, for Pam Bondi, she is not stupid, okay? She is not stupid. To go on in front of and say, we've got tens of thousands of videos of people doing these things. And then the next week, it just poof, she was lying, and all this. There's no way that doesn't mean something to me. That's going to turn around somehow and just get people demanding the file. Okay, this is bullcrap, and it's just what happened. Was that done on purpose? So everybody would start demanding. There would be so much pressure on every bipartisan pressure on every congressman, every senator. Everybody's hearing these floods of phone calls, like Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's never seen anything like it, about Epstein and Epstein only. Was that done to create this tsunami of demand of you've got to do it? And there's a judge that is holding it up for whatever reason. But was that done by design? Because it's so blatantly dumb that you said this. We've got the videos. I've seen them. This is on my desk. I've seen it. Oh, didn't happen. Next week.
But we see that dumb behavior all the time.
Not like that in a case like
look
this.
Look at Biden's entire administration.
Yeah, but this is.
How is it any different? I don't see it as any different. I think she screwed up. Why she screwed up is beyond me. Maybe I could go super primitive here and say, hey man, women talk. Dude, women are not known for being tight-lipped on average. She maybe overstepped, and they literally tried to backpedal and cover the tracks, and they felt, we just raised the temperature here. Dan, Cash, get in there, go try to save face. They didn't put Pam in a long-winded interview.
Saving face is bringing out Crossfire Hurricane to cover it up.
Well, sure. It's hey, how do we get more attention? Or
was that just going to happen anyway?
Or that was going to happen anyway.
It has nothing to do with timing.
Again, okay. So fast forward 2 years. Fast forward 2 years, right? Because we're only on day 180 or something in Trump's office. 180, I think, something. So fast forward 2 more years. What has happened with all of this? What has happened with Epstein? Why would they release it to make themselves look like fumbling idiots where, hey, all your supporters have lost faith in Pam Bondi. All the Cash supporters, not all, but a lot, have lost faith in Cash.
You're saying if they didn't release it.
So, no. Exactly how it played out. There's a hidden James O'Keefe style video, Pam Bondi saying, we've got tens of thousands of, right? And back up a year before then, Cash going interviews. Day one, release this. Dan Bongino, hey, keep your eyes on this, guys. Don't let this go. Don't let this story go. I mean, you're saying all of this is orchestrated, and then now they're in office. They've got the files. They can do whatever they want with them, allegedly. And you have Pam Bondi fumble it in a restaurant and then come out and release a statement saying, we've got tens of thousands of hours worth of videos. And then Cash and Dan go into an interview and say, he killed himself. There's nothing to see here, folks. I've seen it. If you've seen it like I've seen it, there's nothing here. Like, it all just reeks, and you're saying it's all orchestrated?
I think it's like
why would you make yourself look like an idiot?
Look, I think it's like sending 6 bombers from Kansas one way and 6 bombers from Kansas the other way.
Okay, that's good.
So
I like it. So which way are they going?
I don't know. And that's why I have hope to think that there's no way a person of Pam Bondi's caliber is that stupid. That she's going to say those things, and then the next week there's this letter, and Bongino, nope, I'm taking 2 days off in Cash. I've seen it, been in law enforcement my whole life. I just think the bombers went that way and the real ones went that way, and we're waiting to see when these guys drop the payload. That's my hope. Okay? That's my hope. Is that this is deception all the way back to let's do a fake invasion for Normandy on, you know, the shores of England. You know, it is deception it is deception. And the Dems don't know, or the left or whomever, the deep state don't know what to think. And now that they're all pleading for the files too, they're all like, okay, let's see him then. He's on him. He's on him. Let's see him. Let's have him. Let's have him. Come on. You know, and now that demand coming from that side is unprecedented. It's never happened. You hadn't seen that. So what if that's the purpose? You know, I just don't. And I go back and I circle back to, man, he's no dummy. He's just not. There's too many things to, you know. I think it's a espionage, not espionage, but a military style operation of what you're seeing happen in sequence of events here. And I have hope that that's the case. You know, those files get released and they are what they say we are. Then, you know, we're gonna have those dartboard you're talking about. You know, because who knows what's on them. But I just think I think it's a fake. I think all this is happening in some sort of sequence. Maybe they're a little bit off and they misstepped about, you know, one thing or the other, but I just think it's a fake. You know, whether they set James O'Keefe up or not, you know, who knows? I mean, why is she showing up telling a house nanny this? I mean, come on, dude, give me a break. This is give me a break. That stuff just don't happen.
I'm looking at it from like a KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, and for me, the simple answers are just like, dude, these people are not that smart. They're not that orchestrated. I don't see what the end game is necessarily. You don't think
that Kash Patel and that President Trump and Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and all of them who've seen what has happened to them, you don't think that they are intelligent enough to try to think out their response and their replies to all of what's happened to them personally, and then take appropriate planning and response as to how they navigate this to get maximum pressure.
But you're alluding to the navigating of this as an elaborate multi-year plot of timing of the partial release of this, which, by the way, we fumbled the first part of it, so everyone now has lost faith in multiple key characters, meaning Bondi, Bongino, Patel. Like, I don't see the advantage of making themselves look like idiots and look like they have become corrupted. They've been, you know, leveraged, whatever you want to call it, that they're now corrupt and bankrupt in that department. I don't see the advantage.
Nothing to see here.
So you're saying that, look, okay, all the characters you just named, why wouldn't they just come out with guns blazing and burn it down within all legal means at their disposal? Uncover all the documentation, burn down this character. Hillary goes to jail. Bill Clinton goes to jail. Okay. Obama goes to jail. There's full accountability. Look at all these treasonous acts. Look at all these cover-ups. Look at all the corruption. Look at Nancy Pelosi's bank account. Here's where she got that money, and here are the votes that directly correlate to that. Why wouldn't they just do that? That is within their character and integrity, and with the moral high ground. Hey, we've done nothing wrong here. The people want this accountability. The people want this transparency, and we're going to release it. There's no funny games being played. We're not trying to play timing and leverage and blah, 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 blah. We're 180 days into Trump's administration. There's not an election pending in the next 5 minutes, and now the timing makes sense. I just don't see it. Like, hey, Trump, if you want to get rid of Jerome Powell, tell it like it is, man. Get rid of Jerome, change the rates as needed, blah, blah, blah. If you want to do this, stand by it. State your case, make the move, do your policy, enforce your policy, make the move, and stand by it like a man. Stand up with courage and honor and look into the cameras, look into the eyes of the American people and the taxpayers. Tell it like you see it. Don't play freaking games, because games is what got us here. Games is Crossfire Hurricane. That's a game. You're playing games. And so you're maybe trying to convince me that there's hope, that they're smart enough to play the game better than the other guy. And I am sick of the games. So I don't want games.
Who's not sick of the games? But
everyone.
My point being is this. Same thing with the deportations. You have all of these judges trying to block all this stuff. Every time they load a plane up with somebody, they want to turn it around. Okay.
Yep.
And they have no grounds, even all the way up to the Supreme Court, but they're still trying to circumvent these lower judges are trying to circumvent the system and to try and block all that, to keep all that in place. The same thing happens on a different scale with all of this. And I think it's more thought out than we think. I don't discount. Hey, just pour it all out there and let's see what happens. Everybody gets, whatever. But I don't think that's possible. I just don't think it's possible. I think that I am hoping, okay? I don't think, but I am hoping that this is calculated and they understand and they are trying to build cases and change things legitimately that will stand to save us, to save this country. Of course, that is hope. That is what I think. But look, if you look back at all the mess and you understand, look at the MLK files, you look at these files, all this information, the JFK deal, all of that, it's all calculated. It's all step by step. This man stood up to this. They tried to take him out. They buried it in this. They did that. Some of it's sloppy. Some of it's not. They understand all of these things. They understand how coups work. They understand, it's intelligence. And these people are not. So you would be basically comparing Cash and Dan to Clapper and Comey. All right, same people. These people are that intelligent. These people are that. But so they're the same. They're going to stumble through clumsily, and then it's just a red one versus a blue one. Yeah. And they're going to stumble through clumsily and not know what they're doing.
Trading characters in the game.
Okay. Well,
pawn for pawn.
Man, I hope not.
And here's another point to your point, right? So let's take the current administration. We've got Dan, we've got Cash, we've got Bondi, we've got Trump. Install your characters on the chessboard. They've only been together for, I'm going to round up to 200 days, right? Maybe they've known each other for longer. But you're saying that all of this collective...
Cash has known Trump a lot longer.
Okay, pick a number.
So has Bondi.
They've known each other for how long? Pick a number. Pick a timeline.
And Cash served it with Trump before. He's known Trump for years. Okay. And so has Bondi.
Can I say 6 years? They've known each other for 6 years.
He served in his first administration.
Okay, we're missing the point. We're off track. They've only known each other so long and been able to work together closely for so long. And is that enough time? I guess the point I'm making is how much time does it take for people to get together to install and run a coup operation?
This is my point. This ain't that. I hear you. It's not long enough for them to think out all these details. Devin Nunes has been trying to think up this stuff since he was.
And why weren't they doing it? And why weren't they doing it during Trump's first administration?
Because they didn't know
if they were together.
It was Devin Nunes was a congressman at the time.
This is my point.
Okay, so
is that these things would take time, many, many, many years to really be this organized, to have the end game be. What, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? What's the end game?
Truly understand your enemy.
And that's when did you understand the enemy to orchestrate such an intelligent coup?
And before 2020, before COVID.
Okay, so that's why I was saying pick a time, 6 years.
So no, I'll pick a time and say COVID. Okay,
so that
January
ended
January 2020. Okay, so the election's coming up. You knew about Crossfire Hurricane before then, but now look what you knew that COVID was designed to take him out as well as this, and the Crossfire Hurricane and all this stuff. And the next thing you know is the ballot stealing and all this stuff. There's plenty of time to understand that's when you really know your enemy. You're going to really shut the world down based on a lie and a pandemic on a manufactured virus, and then try to tell everybody to do all these things and that's when you really understand your enemy and you start calculating how to take them out the right way.
Right.
And that's when you start to, and yes, I believe that this has been
So
in
you think
process for a long time.
Okay.
No way that I think that the last 2 months of what they've been doing with these five, there's just no way they're doing this haphazardly. They're not that stupid.
I'm not saying that they're
only
stupid,
thing
but
that
I'm
has to
not
happen-
giving them enough credit.
Well, the only thing
to
that's going to make
run-
you happy is if somebody is in cuffs. Okay? And that's 90% of the country
I would
right
smile. I would smile
Certainly.
that day.
Yes.
If somebody
now. And
was
perp
in
walk is
cuffs.
Somebody's perp walked. Yeah,
And that's not for theater.
I get
That's
it,
for
I get
justice of the American
it.
people,
Sure,
yourself
I get it.
included.
I understand that. You're acting as if, but you're saying to me, you think all this is just a giant fumble and they're messing up. I don't see that, and I may be wrong.
There are
okay?
plenty of strategic moves. And I think in their ideal headspace, right? If I'm Pam Bondi, ideally, I would have had a strategy and appropriate implementation for every single move, for every release of information or withholding of information or whatever. And I don't think, here's what I don't think. I don't think that her dropping that intel in that restaurant to the nanny, I don't think that was a strategic move. I don't think that was a psyop or a coup or a part of anything. I think she fumbled that. I think she fumbled it, period. And I don't see any proof of anything otherwise. And I think what they've been doing since then is
anyway
recovering
you don't
that.
sit there and talk to a nanny in a restaurant in DC.
I disagree.
And you just spew that crap out. I disagree with that.
And that okay, we agree to disagree.
And then you turn
on
around
that.
and you make the same statement from a podium 2 days later behind the White House, and you just you don't. I just don't see that being.
I've seen it too many times in my own life where people.
You're just saying that's a feminine thing. She's just talking just to be gossiping.
Well, that could just be an individual thing, but I think women are known for not being tight-lipped. Hey, look at the stats. Fellas watching this, you guys know, and women watching this, you know. Who are you going to trust more to be tight-lipped in your life?
Who's the good cop? Who's the bad cop?
Hey,
okay.
that's fair. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'll tell you what I like about something going on. I'll tell you what I dislike about it, and I'm not going to pull punches on.
Which is the same old.
Which
if
is
you know Brandon Rocky, same old. But again, I'm going to circle back to what I say to you again. This is two things. It's good versus evil. Okay, period. It's good versus evil. All right. I'm not sure that the good in this scenario is purely representative of pure good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to say that. Okay. But I also want to say that this is a direct result of Marxist policies being just constantly deteriorating and implemented throughout a century and a half or a century, just over that, of just seep from Woodrow Wilson to the Federal Reserve to FDR to MLK to Stanley Levinson to all of this into these Ivy League universities producing people and their parents that are in position, whether it's the hippies or whatever else, and whoever's that are in positions now, that are entrenched, that are unelected, that are dictating policies in the background, that are so arrogant and so egotistical that they think that they run the show. And that, they're supporting the deep state is trying to take President Trump out with the top guy implicated in all of this, from the killing of Seth Rich to Assange and Snowden and all of those leaks and John Podesta and all of that stuff, and all of these things that are fingers that are controlled into John Brennan and Comey and Clapper and all these people that control, the CIA, and the CIA being, the same people. They said they don't know anything about intelligence. They're just employees of Clapper and Brennan, handpicked to do what they say they're going to do. It stems from Marxist ideology. my historical take. And the devil.
Definitely the devil. All right, guys, you heard it here first. Same old corruption, same old DC games.
Same old Brandon.
Not the same old silence. We see it. We're saying it. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, brother.